I will inform my audience about marriage and what it consists of. Marriage is based off of many things, but the main thing to think about is communication, and of course the difference between how marriage has changed or evolved since the early 1900s or even the early 1600s. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man. He brought her to the man. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." That is why the man leaves his father and his mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Genesis 2:22 through 24. The quote that I previously stated was describing how God created a woman from a man and how together they become one. As a man and a woman get married, they state vows. An example would be, "I take you for my lawful husband/wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, until death do us part." Marriage is the beginning of a family and is a lifelong commitment. Marriage is more than a physical and emotional bond, but it is also a spiritual bond. Marriage offers an opportunity to grow in selflessness as you serve your wife, husband, and children. Marriage throughout the years has changed, but one thing that is always important is communication, especially between husband and wife. Marriage has definitely changed from the earlier times, like 1960s, 1600s even. Traditions through those years have also not changed, but they have changed. An example would be the bride would tape 3 pennies to her shoe for good luck. Or another thing that's from a while ago, and my mom even did it, was something borrowed, something blue, something old, and something new. The something borrowed could be a necklace, a veil, shoes, rings, anything like that. Something blue is usually put on the garter, so it's still representing the tradition, but you're not ruining your colors or your theme. Something old would be something kind of borrowed, like from grandma, aunts, something like that. And then something new is most likely the bride's dress or like jewelry. Another thing that goes along with how marriage has differed would be like laws and rules. Anne Besant states, "In savage times, marriage was a matter either of force, fraud, or purchase. Women were merchandise, by sale of whom their male relatives profited, or they were captives in war, the spoil of the conqueror, or they were stolen away from their paternal home." Back in the olden days, there were restrictions of who could marry who, when you could get married. Most of those things would be along like ethnicity or race. Blacks couldn't marry whites, whites couldn't marry blacks, things like that. Another thing that has also changed is the age when people would get married. Back in the early 1600s or even 1900s, people would get married at about the age of 18 or 19. Now people are holding off to get married and want to get their life in order and all that kind of stuff. A job and education comes first before getting married. Even though marriage has changed throughout the years, the one thing that hasn't changed is what it takes to keep a successful marriage. Some keys to a successful marriage is definitely communication. That is the number one. And then second is trust and honesty. Within communication, it's important because it helps build up your relationship and it also minimizes confusion between husband and wife. The more you communicate, the less worries, the less problems, the less arguments, even like over the little things like who fed the kids last or the dog or who took the garbage out, stuff like that. Trust and honesty is another main huge thing or another key. It gives a sense of security and it also helps each other knowing that the other one has your back and will back you up and support your ideas and things like that. After knowing the keys to a successful marriage, it is important to also know the beliefs and views on premarital sex. The beliefs that premarital sex is wrong. My pastor told me in one of our interviews that it is against the Bible to have premarital sex before you are married, and it's called a sin. It is known as a sin, and it's a wrongdoing, and it's just not a good thing. It's morally wrong, in other terms. Another thing that goes along with that is safe sex. So in school, I know there's a sexual education class, but does it actually prevent teen pregnancies? Does it teach people enough about pregnancy? Do they know how to have safe sex? Are they taught about protection and birth control and stuff like that? Do they know how much it takes to raise a child? Do they know that that's something that should come after marriage? Having a child after being married, according to my mom, was one of the best things that has ever happened to her. I am one of 3, and she absolutely loves all 3 of us. She says she couldn't be more happier that she waited. She realized that raising a child is actually a lot more work than people think it is. She's glad that she could go through it with my father while they were married and had the correct beliefs and morals and all of that kind of stuff. Overall, marriage has changed throughout the years, but it still has maintained the same keys to success, and also knowing the beliefs and morals about marriage and premarital sex. Marriage gives us a life partner, a best friend, and a companion to help us move through the challenges of life together. A phrase my pastor told me was 2, 22, and 52. To you, they may all just seem like numbers, but to others, that's years that they've been married, sharing the same feelings, growing in each other, everything. I mean, marriage is such a wonderful thing. Lastly, finally, when a woman and a man get married, the two become one, and that bond is like no other. It should be inseparable and unbreakable.